Thank you to all of our law enforcement officers and their families who make sacrifices to keep us all safe. We appreciate you. Now, approximately 26% of our current Highway Patrol troopers are eligible for retirement. We must prepare for the future and fund a trooper academy. And while we're at it, no trooper should be furloughed or restricted to drive 100 miles a day because of lack of funding. My budget accommodates these issues. Investing in public safety is not just about investing in the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. Public safety is also about investing in ways to be smarter on crime and tough on true criminals. It's no secret our prison population is in a crisis with over 61,000 people under the jurisdiction of corrections. Our prisons are way over capacity, and our prison population is expected to grow by 25% over the next 10 years. Oklahoma's overall incarceration rate is the second highest in the country. We lead the nation in female incarceration, incarcerating women at 2.5 times the national average. Now, contrary to what some of you may think, Oklahoma women are not meaner. Without reform, Oklahoma must build or lease 3 new prisons, an expensive proposition, even in the best of times. We would need 2 new prisons immediately without any further reform this year. So that is why I created the Oklahoma Justice Reform Task Force to find data-driven, smarter on crime policies to focus on improving public safety. 75% of our new admissions in prison are nonviolent offenders per statute. The number of drug possession offenders sentenced to prison with no prior convictions has more than doubled in 5 years. My budget includes new money for corrections and treatment, which includes a $50 million bond issue to build wings on a men's and women's prisons for substance abuse offenders and rehabilitation. Now, there is unprecedented conservative support on this issue from groups like the American Conservative Union and law enforcement leaders to reduce crime and incarceration. Meanwhile, smart on crime states, conservative states such as Texas, Utah, Georgia, Kentucky, and South Dakota are already headed in this direction, and states have seen better public safety outcomes by pursuing these types of reforms. As Roy Williams, the president and CEO of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce, recently said, and quote, "Oklahoma spends too much money without positive outcomes locking up low-level, nonviolent people." The business community supports the governor's efforts and encourages the legislature to seriously consider these recommendations. And then he went on to say, doing nothing means taxpayers must spend billions more to incarcerate more people or risk problematic federal intervention in our system. And while I'm talking about public safety, send me a bill to fix the Real ID licenses. We have 4 months to solve this issue. Let's get it done. Third, health. As I said in my second inaugural speech, our health outcomes are holding us back as a state, and the status quo is not acceptable. As a result, I've convened a group of healthcare leaders from throughout the healthcare industry and the state government to ensure that we are improving health outcomes and the quality of healthcare and controlling costs. There are too many issues to contend with in healthcare, and Obamacare has created additional problems we must address. Healthcare premiums are increasing at a dramatic rate. Deductibles are so high, people can scarcely afford their insurance coverage that they have purchased, and the regulations that have been handed down from the federal government are creating added costs with very limited benefit. So with the help of our local healthcare leaders, we are developing a plan that we will submit to the new administration to fix the problems we have seen in Oklahoma. We hope to reduce regulations, to create lower-cost insurance plans, encourage investment in private health accounts so people can direct their health care purchases, and utilize successful local programs like our Insure Oklahoma program to provide health insurance coverage that works for Oklahoma. Now, while we are fixing our broken healthcare system, we can never take our attention away from preventing illnesses in the first place. So let's not forget that too. Fourth, we can't continue to ignore our state's crumbling infrastructure. So in my budget, I've identified our state's most pressing, urgent needs, along with a bond proposal to address them. They include a new Department of Health lab, so we don't lose our national accreditation, and improving facilities like corrections, mental health, juvenile affairs, just to name a few. So what I've outlined today is a realistic, responsible way to put our state on a successful path. By investing in our state, we create a stronger business climate, a place where people want to live and work and raise their family. But this can't happen unless we roll up our sleeves and do the tough work and make tough decisions. So on your desk, you will find a packet that contains 3 budgets, a red, yellow, and green. So the red budget cuts $668 million, which reflects our current shortfall. That's approximately an 11% cut to all agencies, and by the way, some which have already taken cuts of 20, 30, 40, 50, and even one with a 66% cut over the last many, many years. Your yellow budget drains almost about half of the remaining balance of our rainy day fund, and it also still makes substantial cuts. These budgets would be detrimental to our state, and I don't recommend we consider either one of them. But the green budget presents a path forward, stabilizing our budget's structural challenges while investing in core essential services. It actually basically mirrors our 2003 budget adjusted for inflation, but is still less than the 2009 fiscal year budget, which was the highest watermark when adjusted for inflation. We must note also that our student population has grown by 48,000 students since 2009, and our state's population has grown from 3.5 million to just under 4 million in population. So I'm going to show you a chart here on both sides. As you can see on this chart, if we do these things I've outlined, This will give our legislators more control in directing how money can be spent on the state's most pressing needs.